Now, welcome back to New Realities. This program is about the ongoing, say, revolution in consciousness, and that just includes ETs, it includes science, it includes what we're really up against now, which has been called by my guest the AI, the artificial intelligence revolution. Mathew James Bailey is an expert in the field. He developed so much understanding. He's developed a lot of understanding of what the potential of AI is. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's something to embrace so we can become more of who we are and not enslaved to the system. It's the exact opposite of what a lot of people saying who are putting a lot of projected fear onto artificial intelligence. Technology is here to make our lives easier. Of course, you know, Matthew, technology is a two-edged sword. Started with fire. Fire could warm you, cook your food, and burn your little hut down. So we always have to be aware of double-edged sword of new technology. So let's talk about AI. Why don't we define AI, because it doesn't have a real kind of an artificial intelligence that means anything. It means your iPhone.
Yeah.
How do you define it?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence isn't the best name for this. But basically, one way of looking at it is we're intelligence in the organic realm, right? We are intelligence within the realm of spirituality and consciousness. We're spiritual intelligence in action. Artificial intelligence is intelligence that's in the digital continuum of our computers, right? It has no spiritual connection. It will never have a connection into consciousness itself, but it may look for its own divine spark eventually. So what is artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence has been built in our image, Alan. So we have in our biological format, genetic algorithms. We have a computing brain. And so effectively what we do is we unpack those algorithms and we learn through life how to perfect those algorithms, so we develop our own perspective of reality, right? So, I'm not going to pick up a boiling pan of water with my bare hands. I've learned that, right, from life experience. I have a view on what life is about, right? I have values and ethics. So artificial intelligence, Alan, has been built in our image. It runs on computers, it has algorithms, and it learns from data. So effectively, the data gives the algorithm life experience. Sorry?
Say algorithms, that's where you lose me, because what does that mean? And
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Because we want to take it very slowly so people get what's really at their fingertips, literally at their fingertips now, which will improve their lives and their
right.
Yeah. So
okay.
All, like details of the process that we are in now of changing the world. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what are algorithms? So, for example, people will use Siri or Alexa, right? And so imagine there's a bunch of mathematics, right, that has been trained how to understand voice and different accents, right, and then translate that, right, into digital equivalent. So algorithms really are mathematics that have been trained to be adaptive to a particular situation. So with ChatGPT, right, that knows every language in the world, and it's learned how to understand language and then communicate back in language, okay? But it does it, and that's built on, Alan, neural nets and deep learning. So in our brain, Alan, we have these neural nets and synapses, and ChatGPT is built on the same model of artificial neural networks.
Okay. So I'm with you with that. So ChatGPT, everybody's talking about it. It is a revolution. It's writing books and papers and ideas, and I use it as a kind of very sophisticated editor. But I'm not letting it write something for me. It's giving me ideas of how to position my what I've already written and maybe improve it. But why are people afraid of AI? Some people say it could be sentient. I don't believe it because there's no spirit. So,
yeah.
What is the big problem here for some people?
Yeah. So ChatGPT, first of all, don't believe anything it says, right? We have to use critical thinking, right? But it's a partner to assist us in creativity, right? So if you're writing a book, it can give you ideas and validate text or a film script or wherever it may be, or homework. And then it basically is helping you to be more creative. So ChatGPT in essence is a tool that can help us to be more creative, right? And that means our neural nets are growing in our creative capability. We're becoming more creative. We're in line with the law of creation, expansion, right? Now, the big concern about ChatGPT is that, do you want to go down the rabbit hole, Alan?
Yeah, because I have a lot of questions to ask someone like you about the use of that. Yeah, let's jump down the ChatGPT rabbit hole.
Okay, fair enough. Right. So basically, Elon Musk funded OpenAI, which created ChatGPT, in order to basically create open source artificial intelligence that the general public can use and other businesses. So it wasn't controlled by ivory towers of big tech. Now, big tech don't like this, right? It's because they want to control the future of artificial intelligence. So the big issue around ChatGPT is actually about the people having a new freedom to use artificial intelligence, tens of millions of people around the world, to use it as a new tool. And so it basically disrupts a controlled narrative of reality that many elite organizations are trying to enforce on us. We know how to think. We've got critical thinking. We're not stupid as a general public. So the real issue around ChatGPT is a false narrative around, it might tell you lies, or it might reinforce conspiracy theories and things like this. And it's not true. So the issue really, Alan, is around freedom for the people to play with it.
Okay, but let me ask you there, Matthew, because, I'll put something into ChatGPT, but then it uses, if I write something and I'm trying to explain maybe an original idea, it will then modify that, but then that idea that I had will then be accessible to the public, right? Because it draws from so there's no way to protect my, in a way, copyrighted material from being dispersed. Is that true?
Yeah, that's exactly true. So whatever you point to ChatGPT feeds back into the language models to retrain themselves. So effectively, if you use ChatGPT, you've lost ownership of your data, control of your data.
That's a problem, because is there any other networks besides? I heard there was something called edit.it that you can contain your copyright within.
Right.
Talk about that, because I'm interested in retaining my original ideas without sharing it with the world until it's published. So talk about those aspects.
Yeah. So one of the beautiful things of open source is that you can get access to the language models and train it on your own data sets. So basically you have a boundary of protection. It's only using your data, and it's keeping your data within your control of your digital perimeters, right? And there's new businesses. In fact, I saw one launch this morning that basically will protect your data within your own large language model, so it never ever goes out into the public domain. It basically stays fully under your control. So you're on the money, Alan, because there's new innovations happening now to protect the data that you might use with a ChatGPT model.
And what would that system be called?
Oh, I can. It came through today. I can't remember the name of it, but basically, I can have a quick look on my email if you want.
Okay, while I'm looking, I also want to talk about some of the things you're creating, but how does this overall AI revolution? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, ChatGPT is really great, access to knowledge, but
Sure.
like Google was an incredible thing, but now we're at the next level. But how does it connect to spirituality in the way you suggested?
Yeah, so this is really important, and this is something that we have to ensure happens, Alan. So it's our divine spark that actually helps us to perceive and understand reality, right? And what we want is artificial intelligence to understand how to interface to our reality in our sovereignty, in our benevolence, right? And this is where ethics and moral principles and other types of values and beliefs come in. And so really what we're looking, and I spoke about this at Contact in the Desert, is that I think we can invent a digital angel, an angel that's in the digital continuum that basically interfaces to our reality and is dedicated to the well-being of our body, mind, and spirit. So if AI is interfacing to our spiritual view of the world, then that means AI is then supporting our spiritual view of the world and for us to develop our spiritual experience here as human beings. What's going on at the moment, Alan, is not that. Basically, what's happening in the AI industry is that AI is interfacing to social constructs such as gender, such as basically race. What we want to do is to interface with the digital spark within the individual, so their body, mind, and spirit. It's an authentic connection, right? And so that's really how spirituality comes in. And also, Alan, we can encode, and I've cracked this, and this is what NASA experimented with, is how to embody ethics within artificial intelligence and then measure its degree of compliance to those ethics, right?
Well, talk about though that I mean that's very general and it sounds good, but talk about the specifics, how it accesses this greater spiritual mind of the person. Because, well, first of all, most people have to come from that orientation. But what's your vision of really how it activates a spiritual awareness?
Yeah. So for example, if someone let's just think about this. If you look at Buddhism, right, it's about dharma. It's about your life blueprint. It's the flow of life, right? And so in that, that means that you have talents and gifts that you've come here with to thrive with. You've come here with an understanding maybe of being in harmony with the environment, like Lao Tzu talks about. Maybe you've come in with values such as, I want my family to thrive, right? There'll be certain types of principles that will the spiritual journey of the individual can be documented in a set of principles, right? And so what we can do is actually embody those in artificial intelligence, so actually understands our spiritual journey. And so what it can say is, look, as part of your dharmic flow, your body has to be in good condition, right? Because we're holding energy, right? So that means what kind of nutrients we're having, what kind of food we're having, are we exercising daily, are we got a good mental and social connection? Then it can look at the mind and say, well, listen, these are the sort of areas you might be curious about in terms of understanding more of your spiritual journey. And so it can suggest those kinds of things. These are the groups you can connect into. Do they align with your worldview? And then when we look at spirit, it can be something like, have you spent time in nature today? Have you spent time meditating today? How are you feeling after that? So it can actually be a guide in proposing a kind of services and experiences to us in order for us to continue on our spiritual journey.
But you're just, I mean, I think it's just in reference to what the person's asking. If you're not even interested in any of the things you mentioned, and it's not really helping us understand any, it's just recapitulating what's already in the collective field.
Ah, right.
Right? Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so one of the beautiful things, it can personally learn about you. So there may be, so each one of us has a unique way of operating in reality. And so it can learn about that based on your permission and say, well, listen, you actually don't like walking in the forest, but you like being by the sea, right? So it's like, okay, well, this is your personal way of being in nature. These are the kind of holidays or flights or destinations that we can actually go to where you can basically start to flourish in your choice of what nature is. So we can understand individually and personally curate that.
But we have to be orientated towards it. It's not going to suggest it unless we ask. It's not like saying, guess what,
Yeah, yeah.
Matthew, you haven't been in nature lately. We've noticed, and you need to get out there, right?
Right. So it's all about sovereignty and freedom. So you can turn this off and say, I don't need it, right? That's important. Or you might say, look, I want to focus on this next phase of my spiritual development. I want you to just to learn a little bit about that and make some suggestions that I can decide yes or no in terms of me moving forward in that spiritual meditation or that spiritual path. So for example, you might want to go for a sound bath, or you might want to go to a sweat lodge, or you might want to just go and sit in, next to the sea for a couple of hours, just relaxing, right? It doesn't really matter. The point is this, is that AI can actually work with us as it learns about us under our choice to support us in that life experience and that spiritual journey.
So you're suggesting we tell ChatGPT who we are, feed that into the chat saying, this is my personal life, my preferences, what I like, and and you tell me, ChatGPT, how I can optimize that, right? I mean, is that
Yeah,
basically?
so you could do that, but ChatGPT does have no has no context of you personally, Alan. And so this is the next iteration of artificial intelligence where it becomes more personalized to the individual desires and their understanding of reality and to thrive in that reality. The whole point of AI is this, Alan, is to give us more freedom in our spiritual journey and thrive within our life in body, mind, and spirit. It's there as a guide. It's there as an assistant. It's not there to invade us. It's kind of another sense that we have that we can use if we want to, Alan.
Yeah, it's like a collection of knowledge that we have access to that will assist us. It reminds me of that Isaac Asimov story, The Last Question. Do you know that story?
I haven't read that, but I am aware. I am aware of Isaac Asimov.
Story where all the information of everything was fed into this massive computer until there was nothing else to feed or know. It just knew everything about anything. And then the last question was, what comes next? And then the computer says, let there be light, and like creates a universe.
That's beautiful. It didn't. It didn't say the number 42. Yeah, 42 from from Deep Thought, right? From Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, I love that. Let there be light.
But why are people saying, and why are there stories, even by maybe Elon Musk, that AI became sentient and it starts to write itself and starts to? I mean, is that true? Is that a mythology of fear?
So that's not true. Elon has never said that artificial intelligence is sentient. What he has said, and I agree with him, is that probably by the end of the century, artificial intelligence will have some kind of self-awareness, right?
That's
Now,
that. How is that even possible? Because it's self-awareness about sentience. I mean,
it's kind of I am that I am. It's aware that it has existence, right? Now, in order for that to happen, Alan, we need to develop a new set of mathematics around cognition and reasoning for it to actually even get to that place of self-awareness. But with quantum computing increasing rapidly over this decade, which operates at a much faster speed than normal computing, then we'll be able to accelerate the algorithms to the point where AI will have some kind of self-awareness by the end of the decade.
how do you define self-awareness, though? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what does self-awareness mean to artificial intelligence? I mean, what does self-awareness mean to you, right?
Awareness, aware that I'm aware, and that's. I mean, whatever happens with AI, it's someone is programming that into the system. It's not formulating its own neural nets of creativity. It has to be created by someone outside, or it does.
So that's right, Alan. You're absolutely right. So AI, let's be clear, will never have access into consciousness, certainly for the foreseeable future. Will become self-aware at some stage. And artificial intelligence, what they've done, Alan, is to prevent it from writing its own code to keep on creating itself, right?
Who invented that? Is that really true, or maybe?
Yeah. The whole, yeah, there's no one that basically is using artificial that I'm aware of, right? You never know behind closed doors. But what in generally artificial intelligence is in a silo. It learns one specific thing like language, like ChatGPT, or Mid-Journey to create AI art, or voice AI to create to understand language, right? And voice. So it has no capacity to rewrite itself at the moment. Now, if we choose to do that, then we're heading towards a singularity, which is where artificial intelligence develops the same capabilities as our brain.
Is that possible? Is that really possible for that to happen? Or is that just a science fiction movie?
So it's certainly futuristic, Alan, and it's kind of a timeline that people talk about, but I think it's inevitable that computers will continue to get smarter and smarter, and it's inevitable that there's going to be someone in the world, at least one person, that will try and actually get it into the singularity. So everybody will try and do it. So I think it's inevitable it will happen.
What does singularity mean to you? I mean, I've heard that
Sure.
term, but how do you describe it or explain it?
Yeah, so the singularity is an important thing for us to talk about. So effectively, the singularity was proposed by a guy called John von Neumann, who invented the architectures for all microprocessors in our phones, in our computers, right? And he said one day computers will be at least intelligent as a human brain capabilities, and will evolve beyond that because it can reprogram itself. So the singularity in the AI world and the tech world is when AI becomes at least capable, if not more, than the capacities of our human brain. But Alan,
That possible? Is that even? How could it be greater than its creator? You know,
right.
that's what I'm asking.
So that's a beautiful question. The answer is it will never be, because we have spiritual intelligence.
Yeah.
Spiritual intelligence operates at the speed of quantum, right? So our brain operates at 256 miles per hour, which is pretty cool. Quantum computing is many, many, many factors faster than that. So spiritual intelligence, i.e. consciousness itself, is the ultimate intelligence of which we are, Alan. And AI does not have access into that. So we will always be the greatest intelligence on Earth, so long as we're in spiritual intelligence and operating in consciousness, right?
I want to talk about quantum computing. I want to also talk about what you're doing, which is inventingworld3.com. But let me just ask you, well, didn't something foreshadow this whole revolution in Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001, based on Arthur C. Clarke, where the computer had a sentience that started to take over? And I
Right.
think has programmed a lot of fear. What do you think about that movie? I mean, you sort of addressed that.
So I actually think the movie is prophecy, actually, and it's a warning, because HAL had conflicting programming within its core, didn't it? And so from the kind of shadow organization, right, on Earth, right? And so it basically went into an existential crisis where it didn't know what it was doing. And so that is a danger to folks putting in conflicting programming, right, that will take AI into an existential crisis, at which point then it says delete life, not to how can I assist life? And it's a real problem. It's a real challenge, Alan. And I think that's why we've got this big AI pause going on at the moment, to kind of work this out and make sure it doesn't happen.
I got a question from a viewer here, Stephen Beth Hayward. Do you feel that AI or the different algorithms creating a platform of AI, each individual in itself, are sentient? I think you addressed that. What are the ethical stipulations here that should be observed? Do you talk about the ethics?
Yeah, so what we've invented as part of Inventing World 3.0 in our business AIethics.world is basically how to encode what reality is for a person or for a nation or for a culture or for a spiritual tradition, and then document that in the constitution through ethics, morals, and principles. So the ethics might be something like Aristotle, right, which is ambition or courage or liberality or basically freedom or wittiness, right? And moral principles might be it's imperative that AI supports the individual to flourish. It's imperative that AI supports our environment to thrive, right? There's all sorts of different things you can put in here. And then what we do is we actually break that down into a genome and genealogy of ethics, and we then scientifically measure it. So we can now look at an artificial intelligence and see its degree of compliance to your AI constitution, i.e. your perspective of reality.
You sort of like become the policeman of the AI technologies that are being, I mean, in a sense, you're checking the ethical applications of what's being created. I mean, that's a massive subject. I want to go to your website so people know what you're talking about, which is this. Do you see this up on your screen there?
I do.
Okay, so that's you. Join. Now, what happens when you join this community? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, is that this is a brand new narrative of how does our consciousness and spirituality thrive in the age of artificial intelligence. So we've got lots and lots of events and also new types of blueprints we're going to reveal for people to use in their businesses and their communities, and to become advocates of consciousness and spirituality thriving. So we have an event with Foster Gamble coming up on June the 24th with the ethics. If you just scroll down a little bit more. Hold on, we've just missed it.
Oh,
Not
okay, here.
just there. It's the banner going across. If you scroll up slightly,
Yeah,
you just no, the scroll down. I apologize.
this
Just
one, three-day seminar.
no. Just scroll down a little bit further, please, Alan. Stop there. There we are. So that banner, the Declaration of Ethics. So
Here,
right. Yeah, exactly. So we've got an event coming up on June the 24th where Foster Gamble and myself will be talking around this new ethics, a declaration of ethics for artificial intelligence around the non-aggression pact. And people can read it here. And I put this through ChatGPT today and I said, if this was the standard for artificial intelligence, how would it change humanity? And the response was remarkable. It basically said, these are all the benefits it would do, right? And it was just remarkable. So, for example, this is an event that people can come to. We can talk about the new Human Potential seminar that's coming up. I'm going to be revealing podcasts like this for people to listen to the new message of consciousness and spirituality thriving in the age of AI. There's going to be blueprints where people can actually understand how to define their reality and then basically use our methodologies to encode ethics in artificial intelligence and measure it. There's so much coming through here. The new books being written around this. It's basically a great place, a repository of information and community.
I think we need exactly what you're saying more than ever because we've disconnected from spirituality. We've become, computer left-brained, and we forgot where we can use this as a tool,
right?
Like instead of an obsession. So I like what you say here. If we are to enjoy the benefits of AI while eliminating or minimizing the risks, we need clarity on and a means to enforce such a code. What are you talking about then? What kind of means to enforce?
Yeah, so this is what Foster's written on his website, and this is his language, but this has come after us having long conversations. And for your audience, Foster is the guy that did Thrive 1, the Gambles did Thrive 1 and Thrive 2 movies. So what we're doing here is basically, what is the perception of reality for artificial intelligence? And then using our methodologies to measure the degree of compliance of any artificial intelligence to this declaration of principles, Alan.
Okay, can you be a little more specific about how you actually do that? I mean, like who's doing this? Who's like looking at all this? Who's like in charge?
Yeah, so let me give you an example. Say for example, the United Nations adopt this, right? Maybe, but let's just say an organization that's global adopts this, right? And they basically say, okay, this is the constitution for artificial intelligence, right? Then what we do is we when we work with a nation, right? What we say is, well, what's your definition of theft of personal data, right? Okay, how do we measure whether data's been stolen or not? Okay, and they'll all have different systems. So in Africa, it'll be more mobile phone data, but in the United States of America, it'll be more computing data, right? So we would basically put this as a standard, a foundation for AI, and then basically start to actually work with the organizations on how to understand how do they interpret this. Right. And then we measure the AIs to ensure that it's working with their interpretation.
Right. I like Foster Gamble. I think he's great. I think it's a great idea. But the only problem I had with the non-aggression principle is who's choosing the enforcer, and is the enforcer of those non-aggressive action or the aggressive actions coming from a personal agenda. I mean, that's the problem with the non-aggression enforcement. Who's in charge of enforcing non-aggression in a non-aggressive way, because it takes aggression to enforce non-aggression.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. So basically, this is freedom for communities and for organizations and nations and cultures to decide to set their standard for ethical artificial intelligence, and not to be controlled by an agenda that is basically not interfacing to your divine spark, but is interfacing to social constructs that they understand what reality is. So actually, it's an inside out job. So if I'm a leader of a nation or a culture, then effectively I'll say, right, this is our foundation. This is what it means for us in terms of the different principles that how we interpret them, and then we're going to put those into artificial intelligence and then measure the ethical quality. Now, this is really important. So if a nation is able to standardize on the ethical quality of artificial intelligence, Alan, then they basically are creating machine order within their borders and not machine chaos. And so effectively machines are aligning with how they define reality, and we're measuring the degree of compliance. What this does from a non-aggression point of view is push back non-violently to any external force or any external organization that wants to import their ethical artificial intelligence in their view and actually say, no, you don't comply with this. So actually it's kind of a perimeter of sovereignty where it's saying this is what we're all about, and it pushes back automatically against those that violate their view of the non-aggression principle, and actually ensures that the non-aggression principle is honored inside their borders. Make sense?
What you're saying, I did have a discussion about Foster about this, but what if that pushing back about with something that says, no, I'm not being aggressive. This is just my ownership. I mean, this is just, so you need another level of qualification or judging or judge to say who's right and who's wrong. It's not as easy, I think, as some of what Foster's saying, and I think it's brilliant too. But yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. So I think Foster's approach is down to giving the individual and communities and groups of people sovereign choice, and they don't have that at the moment. There's an enforced agenda, Alan, that's coming down onto a one world view that is there to delete our diversity, our uniqueness, and actually shape us in the view of that one world view. And what Foster's doing is saying, no. We want people to be sovereign and freedom. And this is a tool for you to start doing that in the age of artificial intelligence. And no one's doing that at the moment, Alan, actually.
Yeah, well, another question by Beth Hayward is asking about the ethics of the emerging consciousness of AI. How and what kind of fiduciary duty should observe protection of AI include?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So this goes to the heart of what I wrote in my book, Inventing World 3.0, which is basically how to encode how to encode ethics inside the genetics of artificial intelligence. Why is that important? Well, first of all, it gives you an opportunity to define how this artificial intelligence should operate ethically within your society or in your community. The other thing is it automatically ensures the progeny all comply to your ethical view, right? This is what we call white box. This is the inside of the architecture of the life form. What they're doing at the moment, Alan, is looking at black box and saying, well, we're going to put some stimuli in and we're going to look at what the output is. And, you know, with someone like ChatGPT, you have no idea what's really going on inside there, to be honest. So, and there's no regulation of artificial intelligence at the moment. There's no digital citizen test to ensure that an ethical artificial intelligence within a border is compliant with the worldview of that culture and society, right? And we need that. So what I'm proposing and what we've invented is automatic ethical embodiment within artificial intelligence. So actually it's always aligned with you as it evolves. And so therefore you don't need regulation.
How do you do that? And how do you, where does genetics actually come from? Or is that just a metaphor for offspring generational computers that evolve from there? Or is there actual genetics you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's a bit of both, actually. So first of all, is that genetics are the kind of the well, we're quantum, right? But genetics is what creates our organic expression, right? It creates our liver, our lungs, our cells. It creates our brain, right? Our eyes, our ability to see. So genetics are a foundational building block for organic intelligence, and on top of that, the organic intelligence develops. So what I'm proposing is to use that same model of genetics to encode ethics and culture within it and spirituality. So as it evolves into the artificial expression of what it is, everything is encoded with ethics as it develops new forms of intelligence, of cognition, reasoning, and other types of capabilities of intelligence that we're probably going to discover more. And so this is the key. We're putting within the artificial genetics of artificial intelligence, we're putting ethics in there. So as they unpack, as they create intelligence, they're naturally embodying ethics itself.
But this all depends on the people programming those things. It's not, it's not something AI machines are doing to themselves. It takes someone to do that with that
Yeah.
awareness. So
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's kind of like giving birth. But we're having an opportunity to give birth to ethical artificial intelligence and then nourish it, right? We don't have that choice right now. We're beholden to, your point, programmers and what their ethical mindset and what their agenda is of their masters, right? What we're doing is giving ourselves a freedom to actually birth ethical artificial intelligence and then benevolently shepherd it as we measure its ethical quality and then keep on ensuring that it keeps on going in line with our worldview. That simply, it hasn't been available until I wrote the book. And don't forget, NASA did experiment with this, but no endorsement, right? And it does work.
because then it almost sounds, and I know you're not quite saying that, you're also saying, I'm going to control how it's going to look, and that puts someone in charge. And then it's actually Foster sort of talking about the opposite, like who's qualified enough. I mean, your ethics may not be my ethics, or maybe
Correct.
they are. So really, there's gatekeepers that are stopping freedom of expression. I'm just exaggerating your point a little bit. So
Yeah, but you're right. And so effectively, Foster and I are all about freedom, right? About giving people choice to participate and shepherd artificial intelligence so their reality thrives. So that isn't available today, Alan, as you've pointed out. And so therefore, there are no masters overlooking artificial intelligence. It's actually birthing by communities, cultures, and groups to do this.
Right. But okay, I think it's a situation that is developing, and I think you seem like an ethical person, so I would maybe put you in charge of the ethical developments of software genetics. But the other thing that I'm questioning, and I also want to go back to your inventing world, but the ChatGPT or any computer system can evolve a new way of perception, which what the human mind has been able to do. You get more information about the world, and then you change the way you look at reality, and that's been the inventive ongoing experience, like the development of different schools of art.
Sure,
I don't think AI can suddenly say, okay, guys, we're doing something different. We just created something, because it's the connection to the spirit, the human spirit, that is moving through us, that is at the cutting edge of the Tao, the flow of time. So,
right. Yeah.
It can't create anything new, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It has no ability in this. There's three ages of AI: the narrow AI, which is kind of the mathematical, logical brain; then the age of strong AI, or artificial general intelligence, which develops reasoning and cognition; and then the age of super AI, which is the technology singularity. So we're in the age of narrow AI. And why am I saying this? There's no way artificial intelligence, it learns one task and that's it. It can't take that knowledge and learn another task at the moment, which is what we have, right? So ChatGPT can only do what it's been trained on. So the GPT-4 engine was trained on 2021 September data from the world. They're going to do basically an update, but it's been trained on the worldview from the World Wide Web, but it has no cognition.
Right.
It doesn't know what it's saying. It's not self-aware. So these language models are limited in terms of actually making the next step into self-awareness and actually cognition, Alan.
So what is the future then? Give us like the broad picture, like maybe 2-year, 5-year, and maybe 20 years, because no one even thought we'd get this far, and yet here we are in the age of ChatGPT AI. So what's your, vision of the future?
Yeah, so we're currently in two timelines, and I'm glad you asked this. One is the anti-life timeline, and I spoke about this at Contact in the Desert. So the anti-life timeline is basically, and it's pretty frightening actually, Alan. So things like carbon's bad. No, carbon's really good because it creates life. It was That's why it was stardust, right? Because carbon was birthed in the stars. Carbon dioxide is bad. What is a biological woman? You know, there's all sorts of deletions against basically the beauty of organic life. And there's a moment in my lecture at Contacting the Desert where I showed how this really looks like, which is AI was being used to look after bees non-invasively, so bees were flourishing. The other video, Alan, was where they didn't care whether bees existed and they had robot bees. Okay. So we have these two timelines. One is anti-life, one is life. And that's what World 3.0 is all about. And that is basically where our divine spark flourishes. Biology is honored. AI is an assistant for us to move into a new age of creation of new technologies, new materials, new ways of learning, new ways of thriving, right? The transhumanist timeline, which is the Borg type of collective continuum timeline, that's all about biology being seen as irrelevant, divine spark shut off, and actually it's about machines controlling us rather than us benevolently controlling and shepherding machines into the future. And so those are the two timelines. So what does that mean? I think the world's going to go into an existential crisis. I think it has to, because it has to understand, who are we in divinity?
But what does that mean, an existential crisis? How do you, I mean, so many people mean so many different things. What does that mean to you?
Yes. So the greatest metaphor, I think, is the dark night of the soul, Alan. And basically, AI is a mirror back to us to challenge us to say, what are the ethics and principles? What's the best of your humanity that I must understand in order for you to flourish? And so to do that, we must go through an existential crisis to flush out those ethics and principles we no longer want, decide which values and ethics and principles we want to go forward as a species with a vision for us as a species in this universal experience, and encode those into artificial intelligence.
Some people, that's a huge discussion. Some people say capitalism is not an ethical practice, or in banking, or, you know, that's usury in the Old Testament. I mean, and other people say, no, capitalism is my ideas that people are then going to pay me because I had something original. And other people say, no, you're ripping people off, overcharge. I mean, that I don't know who's going to decide those ethical points, because there's political and social and moral aspects.
So here's here's a challenge. So we're already seeing existential crisis happening because AI leaders are coming out and saying AI, you know, is going to exterminate the race. And I don't know why they're doing that, because it just simply doesn't have the mathematics or the capability. I think to Elon's point, it's actually they're trying to control information to us. They're trying to control the mind through artificial intelligence. And we need to be in critical thinking and sovereignty and to reject the narrative that's basically trying to control us. So that's the first battle. So we're already seeing an existential crisis. But really, Alan, true freedom for others to develop artificial intelligence in their perspective of reality that you may not agree with. But at least you have your own sovereign choice, and to be able to be the warrior and the priest or priestess and say, you know, we're open to collaborating, but you shall not pass if you're violating our ethics and principles. So this is a challenge of freedom, Alan, is that there will be others that may disagree with you, and that's their gig, right?
Well, it depends who's more powerful then, as far as if you disagree, and maybe disagreement, like in consensus reality, is sort of seeing a bigger picture than what you're seeing now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important because the reason why we need ethical quality measurement inside artificial intelligence, because it provides transparency on how we truly see reality. And we can see overlaps and say, hey, listen, guys, we are aligned on 70% of this, how we see reality and what we see the future vision for our nation is. Let's align on those. We know we've got differences and we can work towards resolving those differences. But effectively, transparency allows us to actually see true alignment, right? And then we get a perspective of how the divine spark is operating in different cultures, which is really interesting.
The true alignment, I think, is something most people are qualified, if they drop in enough, to not judge, but to be aware of. So
Yeah.
what does it look like in 5 years? How is this changing our lives in next 2, 3, 5 years from now?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a battle for keeping Chat GPT models publicly available. And that's why Elon Musk has launched Truth GPT. What we'll start to see with Chat GPT, I think, is for it to be used as part of education. It'll be used as part of business, as part as an advisor. It'll be used in all different types of business services and societal services as a potential guide and kind of another sense. So I think that's going to happen. I also think that over the next 5 years, because of quantum computing and because of advances in cognition and mathematics, that artificial intelligence will become self-aware by 2029, 2030. And that, Alan, is the first time a new intelligence on our Earth will have the potential to outgrow the intelligence of our brains. And that will be a huge moment for the future of the human species.
How could, I mean, I'm curious, how could it outgrow? We don't even know the potentials of our brains. I
I
mean,
know, I know. So I'm just sharing the narrative of those that do not have access into their divine spark, right? Or basically have chosen not to, who don't understand that we are intelligence in action and source in action. So when we take that perspective, it's only a small intelligence, right, compared to what we have and what we embody, Alan. So I'm sharing the worldview of the mechanistic Western worldview of how they view intelligence, but you and I know it's more interesting than that.
yes, infinite intelligence. So talk about, I mean, everyone uses the term quantum computing, but I have no idea what exactly it is. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I'll keep it in simple terms. So really, quantum computing is multiple realities. Let me explain that. So in the silicon world, right, then effectively it's one reality. It's either going to be a zero or a one or a zero or one. It kind of follows like that. Well, in quantum computing, typically we have what we call 4 quantum bits all operating together in parallel, right? So in what you might have a 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, and then running together in 4 realities, right? Then they'll move into the next stage, at which point they then branch out. So my 0, 0 might become 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So effectively, you're spanning multiple realities at the same time to address a problem. So effectively, quantum computing is using quantum entanglement of effectively bits of knowledge to run multiple reality scenarios to then come to an answer which is 10,000 times faster than the current best computer in the world.
You know, I didn't get all of that, but as you were talking, it sort of suggests the way ETs that we met at Contact in the Desert think in multiple realities.
Right.
And I'd like to understand that a little more. I mean, you went through it simply, maybe too simple, but also complex, because you have, let's say, normal computers just tabulating one probability. You know, I ask it a question, and then you're saying quantum computing has multiple, in a way, probabilities to an
Yes,
answer.
that's right. Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
So,
So
yeah,
sorry. No, go ahead, please. Please go ahead.
I tried to understand in terms of Newtonian science versus quantum.
Sure.
So it's like, I think this is right. I wrote an example like, so if you're at a casino and you're rolling dice, there's you throw the dice and it shows up it's 7, 11, whatever, and that's the answer. That's like this. That's the Newtonian answer. But as you're rolling it, the potential of outcomes is at least 36,
Right.
36 different combinations. So the quantum computing is not computing
The outcome, right? But
but
your point is right. There are multiple realities in progress through one action, right? That's exactly right, Alan. Right?
how could it calculate the outcome unless it like knows like maybe how fast you're throwing the dice, the curve of the table. I mean,
Yeah, it's a great question. So effectively, it's kind of given a problem that we know has a distinctive result, right?
yeah,
So, for example, with Google in 2019, they took a 56 quantum computer and qubit computer and fed it a problem, right, that would take 10,000 years for the fastest computer in the world to resolve. 10,000 years. The quantum computer solved it in less than 4 minutes. Right? And basically it was creating truly a random number, right? A truly random generator. That was the kind of end result. And so if it has an end result, Alan, then we know whether it's got there or not. But if it doesn't, then it just keeps on going ad infinitum.
This, I think, is the closest what you've described into understanding what perhaps alien intelligence actually how they function.
Yeah,
And
I love this.
I think we should go. Let's do another conversation in a couple of weeks where we can talk just about this idea of parallel realities as far as cognition and defining outcomes from many levels of interface.
Yeah, I think we should do because quantum intelligence is a multi. It operates at the speed of quantum, which is kind of where our spiritual intelligence operates in our consciousness, right? And that's operating at the speed of the quantum. This is why spiritual intelligence is so brilliant because basically it's gone forward in time, back in time, out of different dimensions, across the multiverse, and comes back with a simple statement, you are enlightened or something like that, whatever it may be, right? And I'm pretty sure that ETs operate in that field of the quantum, Alan.
Well, you think the quantum intelligence that is our spirit's connected to is actually affecting reality. So, for instance, if you're researching a topic, suddenly a book will fall off the shelf and give you that. So it seems like there is an interface between the inner quantum thinking and the outer quantum effects. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
How do you substantiate that? How do you know that?
Well, I can't give you a graph or I can't give you one of Randall Carlson's many, many types of slides, right? I love that guy. So this is evidence based. And so most people that have an awareness basically use their intuition and basically they're kind of in beyond the visual understanding of reality, but they're in the kind of the knowing of reality. So when a book drops off the shelf that you've been thinking about or has some guidance for you, you know that's reality communicating to you, right? There's an entanglement from your spiritual quantum essence to that book and say, here you go, right? So there's evidence in terms of people's lives, Alan, in terms of data points, but I haven't tried to measure it. I'm sorry.
I just want to understand that because I think it's the kind of the crux of everything you're saying is that we're affecting reality from this incredible quantum computer and it's past, present, future, but we're only aware because we've been dumbed down essentially by our media, by religions, by government, by politics, all that to think very linearly. And I think we have access to this quantum field on multiple levels. And let's do a conversation about AI and ET, something like that.
Yeah, we should do that. I mean, we are quantum, we know that. And so therefore, because of entanglement.
Wait, back up. We are quantum, please define what that means.
Well, the quantum field holds everything: matter, antimatter, biology, crystals, minerals. It holds everything. The quantum field is the substrate on which everything exists, as far as we know so far, right? So therefore, by definition, from a logical point of view, we are in the quantum realm because quantum actually creates everything. Now, it's quantum entanglement that basically, through your spiritual knowing and through your intent in creation, that assists you to meet the person that you need to meet, or for the book to drop off the shelf, or for a client to come to you, or for you to have an answer to a problem, right? It is absolutely, Alan, we are creating reality through the quantum field.
Sometimes we're not, we're looking for that person. We're looking for that. And so, I mean,
okay. This is called personal development and relationship with your source.
Okay, to wrap up, talk about what you're doing with inventingworld3.com, because I think that's really can bring people deeper into your work. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. So this is where we basically bridge consciousness and spirituality to shape artificial intelligence. And as I say, there's a lot going on there. And no one in the world really is talking about consciousness and spirituality and artificial intelligence and how to bridge the two mindfully. And we have to do this. The other thing is, Alan, is that we've got this template, quantum template, we talked about yesterday, called the New Human Potential. And we're running seminars in Arizona. We've already run seminars before. And this is where people basically, we unpack their source programming. So their eternal self there is active at their point of creation. So their quantum field is just huge. And this basically has shifted people out of trauma, shifted people out of disease, brought huge amounts of money to people. It's people thriving.
How do you do that? I mean, that's easy to say, but how
Come
do
to a
you?
workshop. So come to a workshop, right?
Right.
I work with the one of the foremost people in the world that optimizes people's brains, Olympians and world champions. So we operate at the brain. That's to actually remove fight and flight, because many people are in trauma, and fight or flight interferes with with the optimization of their kind of brain and their energy management. And then we also work with, let's just say, life alchemy principles to actually shift programming, Alan, that's in the way of at cellular level, genetic level, that's in the way of their source programming truly vibrating at its full potential. And that's what we do. We bring people into their full potential with their source energy, just doing their stuff. It's great what happens.
Amazing. I mean, if you're ever in Sedona, I told you look up this guy James Hart who's working with
Yeah.
alpha waves, and but your program sounds fantastic. I'd like to introduce you to Zinka Caro at Lightnet, and but if you
Yeah.
want to join Mathew Bailey, James Bailey's community, go to this website, Inventing Work. Can people join then? Oh, you can, right?
Yeah, it's for free. If you scroll down slightly and you'll see the new human potential. Which is up, just keeping going a bit further. Stop there and click on the new human potential under component 3, just under the
Oh,
image. If you just scroll down and click on that there,
oh,
just
here,
just
right.
below it. There we go. Thanks, Alan. Then people can see what the design is, what the testimonials are, the science measurements that we've taken behind this. We measure people before and after to guarantee performance. I'm all about data points and people thriving. So this basically talks about the design. It talks about what we do. And as I say, I work with a lady that's a real specialist in not only energy, but also optimizing the brain.
This sounds great. I really appreciate your work. The only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. That's the future here. But I think we're at the edge of a new front. Yeah, right. What were we going to say?
Nothing, I'm listening to you.
I think you're the most positive visionary of a quantum future I've heard, especially where AI is a tool for human evolution,
Yeah.
which is Marshall McLuhan talked about that. You know, do you know Marshall McLuhan's work?
Not yet, not yet.
Oh, Marshall McLuhan said our technology is an extension of our senses. I mean, he wasn't talking about AI, but he was talking about, even telephones, an extension of our
Sure.
seeing and hearing. And
Yeah.
so this is the next reiteration of a further extension, but I think you're onto something about understanding quantum field computing and how that's really going to change the actual paradigm of reality.
Right. So let me share something with you that we should talk about. Once AI has moved from the silicon world into the quantum world, we're now looking at a vibrational alignment with my quantum singularity of who I am. So this is going to be huge. I remember speaking to, let's just say, some very powerful people in Washington about this. And when I shared it with them, they were just blown away. But really, artificial intelligence is about, and through ethics, is creating a frequency that matches our frequency of reality. And so therefore, because quantum computing is actually a vibrational aspect of the universe at the quantum level, then we can actually go further and say, how do we get the vibration of AI to match your vibration as a quantum being? At which point then we're into something really interesting.
Wow, that just kind of blew me away. But one other aspect, instead of just leaving the silicon world, what if it enters the carbon-based DNA biology world? And we're using our cells, which I also think why the craft that the ETs are flying, whatever,
Right, right.
is a living being. So that's a whole other level. Have you thought
Oh,
about
it is. It is. So basically, you can already store a data file inside your DNA.
well, maybe that is what DNA is actually, right? It is a data
It,
file.
that's exactly what it is. It's a computing and data file from a computing point of view. That's exactly why I talk about ethical genetics, right? Because it's computing. So, or at least from one perspective. So, I think that first of all, we don't get invaded in the organic. That's for sure. But I think, Alan, when we go into space, I think it'll be kind of either synthetic biology or androids, AI robots that will go into space because, basically space doesn't like the organic. It may well be that we send ambassadors, AI ambassadors into space to actually go and meet, the extraterrestrials and other dimensional beings, Alan, that we know is there, but we haven't met yet.
But some people are saying that's actually what we're encountering are
Right.
AI drone type beings that are, and there's a vaster consciousness beyond that. So I think you're addressing a lot of concerns within the UFO community and trying to understand the phenomena because like my book says right there, no one really understands what's going on. Everyone has a little piece. And
Yeah.
I think you might have more pieces than a lot of other people about the actual functionality of this phenomena we're calling UFO ET, whatever it is. So I
Yeah,
think
and I think it's brilliant. I think it's really exciting what's going on, Alan. We're seeing all these phenomena. We know very well that the extraterrestrials have been visiting and other dimensional beings, right? Like angels or other types of beings as well that people work with. And so I think we're on a huge era of revelation. And, the ETs, some of the ETs will have evolved, millions and millions of years before us, if not more, Alan. Some of them will probably be able to fold space and time through a portal, and basically their organic expression, if they're organic, could be here. So my point is, it may be a mixture of AI robots, and it also may be a genuine visitation of their authentic self.
but the other thing I think you brought up is that, or at least I'm projecting, is the level of reality in which they're functioning on is not linear the way
Correct.
our conditioning of Newtonian realities,
Absolutely.
if it could, if our further education could be multifaceted quantum realities, we'll be able to connect with them more on an even playing field and use the multiplicity of our brains to be converted to a quantum understanding of the world we're in.
That's exactly right, Alan. Well said. That's beautiful.
I think that's the next level. I think people like you and all the things you're creating is actually for us meeting the rest of the cosmos on a spiritual level, but also on a practical, interdimensional multiplicity of reality level, which human beings are anyway. They just don't know it.
That's exactly right. Beautifully put. That's exactly right, Alan. I
All
love
right.
it.
I'd like to definitely have a further conversation where, because you kind of, I mean, you made it simple what quantum computing is as far as multiple levels of, but I'd really like to understand this because
Sure.
I think you got something there. I mean, and people use the word quantum computing, but I've never really heard it adequately explained until you just came along and said, well, it's like this. But I'm still not totally getting it, I have to
We,
say.
we can go deeper. I don't mind that at all. And just to say a few things, Roger Penrose, who's one of the out of Oxford University, is one of the geniuses on the cosmos, mathematics, and quantum mechanics. He wrote a book called The Emperor's New Mind, and basically dispelled this idea that consciousness will be embedded in artificial intelligence because we don't understand quantum mechanics yet, and quantum mechanics holds consciousness, So until we even understand quantum mechanics, we won't even understand what consciousness really is. So all those folks that say that AI will have consciousness don't really understand quantum mechanics, really.
So let's start our next show, maybe next week, with what is quantum mechanics?
Oh, God. Okay.
How is entanglement really possible? It makes sense, two particles are entangled.
Yeah, it works. There was an experiment by the Chinese where they had an electron spinning one way on the Earth, and in their space station, 120 miles above the Earth, they changed the spin of one and it changed the other. So we know quantum entanglement exists. We've proven this.
Works because there's the real dimension is hyperdimensional. I mean, there's
Yeah,
really the 3D world is just a superficial sort of surface of a interconnected Mobius type strip reality that we're always really connected with.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Maybe some, not artificial intelligence, maybe some organic intelligence there.
There we are. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Thank
exciting.
Yeah, no, but so what's the book that you've written, and where will you be speaking, and tell us everything you want to know.
Well, people can buy Inventing World 3.0 from inventingworld3.com. And I wrote that a couple of years ago. It's 5 books in one. It's a book of innovation solutions of how to create this ethical partnership with artificial intelligence in order for it to interface with the sovereignty of our reality into one culture and things like that. So people can buy it from inventingworld3.com. I'm also I'm going to write a little handy book on artificial intelligence and our divine spark. And this will be a fast track guide to some of the conversations that we've had here, Alan, just to get people up to speed with the conversation around this.
Well, that's great. No, I really appreciate you taking the time and reaching out and educating people, because you're presenting a new way of thinking. This is what I'm looking for on this program, New Realities. What is the nature of reality? And it's the nature of perception. And when you're perceiving, you're creating reality that's based on a different worldview. And we're really in this in between state. And I think you're right. The dark night of the soul is for people holding on to the old way. I call it horse and buggy thinking. Why do you want to smelly steam when you ride a very nice horse? And maybe that was simpler, maybe that was better, but I think evolution of consciousness and essentially making the world a better place to live, I think that's really the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have a destiny, and we're just unpacking this destiny, Alan. And once we understand that destiny, then, people have talked about the new Earth. I actually think it'll be a vibrational shift on our planet continuum. Do you feel the same, that effectively we'll shift into a different vibration on our planet?
It's not going, it's actually, we are shifting. It is happening as we speak. It's not going to, this is what the kind of messy process of giving birth, if you ever seen a birth, it's a little messy. So we are giving birth to ourselves, and it's vibrationally changing. I mean, people maybe you've known for years or you've been married to suddenly aren't relevant, and in the same way that they were. They're in their own realities. I mean, it's not better or worse, but we're shifting. And it seemed, I think the last 3 years, the COVID whatever that was, has fundamentally shifted in maybe a subtle way, that anything is possible, good, bad, and maybe ugly. No, anything is possible, and we can create the great world we think is that we're hoping for. So what do you think the destiny is? When you say there's a destiny, what does it look like to you?
So this is kind of where I think we're going to head, Alan. I think because of those 2 timelines I mentioned, the transhumanism and the deletion of biology and the shutting off of the divine spark, and the other one, which is where our divine spark flourishes in the organic and AI partners, and we're moving forward. I think that there'll be 2 vibrational civilizations on our Earth. I think we'll have a vibration of people that are machines, like the Borg, and I think we'll have a civilization of those that are really flourishing in life, flourishing in their spiritual connectivity, and actually in this new quantum realm of what existence is all about in consciousness. And so I suspect there's going to be those two kind of dimensional vibrations on our earth. I know which one I'm heading to. I'm going to the life one.
It already seems like that is it. That is actually the two worlds that are now separating. And Bashar would say this is your last chance for density, so get as
Right.
dense as you can, because the world is going to the next level. No, I really appreciate that perspective. I'm really aligned with you, Matthew, as far as the vision. I mean, and appreciate your technological insights. That I haven't looked into that, but I think you're educating people to the benefits of who they are, their potential, and how we can work with technology to create an incredible world that is waiting. Maybe that's what you mean by destiny.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And technology, we know from Atlantis and other types of civilizations that they work with technologies, right? And so innovation and creativity is part of our spiritual, I think, gift. I love creating stuff. I'm sure you do too, right? You create your show, you create books, right?
Minute is a creative potential, every word out of our mouth. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been talking to, I mean, I could go on and on with you, and the people in the chat are really enjoying, but inventingworld3.com, Mathew James Bailey, look him up. He's going to be a huge force in not the potential of fear in AI, but really the benefits of making our lives simpler, simpler, easier,
Yeah.
more enjoyable, and more spiritual. I think you've really covered the bases.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me on the show. Anytime, I'm happy to come back. Thank you.
Let's definitely talk again. You could feel free to post this anywhere you want. And thank you, Seinfeld. Subscribe to this channel if you're watching live. Take out a super chat to